Hey everybody, it's George. Welcome back. Hope you're doing great wherever you are in the world. For those of you that just recently moved or are thinking of moving to Portugal or going through the immigration process, apologize for a lot of the, I'll say, more sobering videos that have come up, but there's a lot of changes and I think a lot of things are happening for those of you that are interested that, may change your mind. And I wanted to make this video because Tony, I want to thank Tony, one of the subscribers, for giving me some of this information. When many of us are looking to move abroad, doesn't matter where you live or where your home country is, where your future country may be, the Global Peace Index, or GPI, is something that gets thrown out in a lot of newspaper articles, a lot of YouTube channels saying, hey, you need to move here because this country is very peaceful. And, when we moved to Portugal in 2019, we didn't really think about, we knew it was a peaceful or a safe country. We had always heard that, and we had been several times on scouting trips, so we kind of had that feeling. But, often countries tout, well, we are top 5 or top 3 or top 10 or 20 in this Global Peace Index as a way to market, hey, how safe we are and how it often gets related to low crime or no crime. I would say no crime's disingenuous, but low crime in a country. And that's it. But it's interesting, after getting this information, I wanted to make this video showing about what the Global Peace Index is really about, what it evaluates, because when you look at it, crime, if you will, is in a relative term, is a small portion of what they're looking at. So I want to go through what the Global Peace Index is and all of the variables or metrics that it determines how a country is high on the list, how a country is low on the list. So let's go through it. What is the Global Peace Index? And so it's a measure of trying to determine societal safety and security, and then ongoing domestic and foreign conflict. So not just crime as it is happening in the country, but also, military size and what they're doing in other countries. Is there civil war unrest within a country? Militarization, the military, is a big component in this. So I wanted to go through, just as you're determining where you may want to go, where you may want to leave. You may be interested to find out where your country is on the Global Peace Index scale and where you may be going to. And let's go through all of the different things. I'm going to try to hit them quickly so I don't make this too long of a video, but go through all of the variables that make up the Global Peace Index. So here goes. External conflicts fought. So that's military outside the country. Deaths from internal conflict. So things like civil war, civil unrest, or rioting. Military expenditure as a percentage of gross domestic product. So countries that have big militaries are going to rank lower. Countries that have lower militaries are going to rank higher. Weapons imports. So that's the ability to move weapons, buy, sell, be in the weapons trades. How many imports are you getting of military weapons of all shapes and sizes? Deaths from internal or external conflict, So casualties from war outside of your country. Weapons exports. So what kind of military hardware are you making and sending abroad? So you can get a feel for the GPI is heavily weighted towards a lot of military and outside conflict as opposed to necessarily crime. Internal conflicts fought, so again, that's civil unrest within a country. Violent crimes, so here we go. So those are things like homicides, major crimes that happen within a particular country. Neighboring countries' relations. So how well does the country that you're in or going to move to, how does it play in the sandbox? Does it play nice with its neighbors, or is it can have contentious relations with its neighbors? UN peacekeeping funding. So how much money in your country or your future country is being sent to the UN for peacekeeping forces? Refugees. So specifically, how many people are coming from outside of your country or outside your future country and moving, and they're not doing it strategically because they're going to do a retirement visa They're moving because of conflict and issues that's displacing them from their home country. So refugees is a big deal. Terrorism impact. So wherever you're going to, I would really start doing research, and I would pick Google country name terrorism or terrorist activity, just to see, are there things brewing in that country? Are there things not brewing in that country? Next, incarceration rate. Having a hard time talking today. So how many people are behind bars on a myriad of issues in a particular country? So country has a high incarceration rate, it's going to be lower on that global peace index scale. Intensity of internal conflict. Hard to get a real, it's rather ambiguous, but what my guess is there actual civil war or unrest? Is there rioting? Or is it more just protesting? To me, protesting in a peaceful manner doesn't result in this. I think if there's a lot of action that turns into physical violence at a protest or rioting, that's where I think this is where it's going to. Access to small arms. So a country that has a lot of small arms, handguns, you're going to have lower on the scale. If it's harder to get small firearms, then you're going to end up higher on the global peace index. Political instability. So government regimes, regime change, wars, things that go on. And it doesn't mean, it could mean an election in a country, but more often it might mean multiple elections. It might mean a lot of corruption or presidents, prime ministers, national leaders being ousted due to nefarious activities that they're in. That is also a part of this global peace index scale. Nuclear and heavy weapons. So that is something that comes up if you are a country that does not have nuclear power or any nuclear weapons, then you will rank higher as opposed to a country that has a ton of military weapons that are nuclear or has invested heavily or more heavily into nuclear power. Police rate. It's interesting because when I was looking up what this means, because that's a general vague term. So it's a general, more subjective, how many calls are being made to police, how many complaints are being issued to the police, how many reports are being created by the police. That to me is a very subjective number, because in some countries, or regardless of country, there may be crimes of certain types that are vastly underreported. There could be over-reporting, I guess, in some cases, but I think there are some countries where there's no reporting at all of incidents, both minor crime as well as major crime. So that to me is a little more subjective. The homicide rate, that is something that, again, if you're in a country that has a low homicide rate, that country will rank higher. So as you're looking at places to move to, it's a consideration. Armed services personnel rate, so just how many people are in the military compared to how many citizens live in the country. That just tells you whether they have a larger army or a smaller army. That is also a factor in the global peace index. And then political terror scale, that is something that I think is pretty self-explanatory. If there's a lot of violence that's happening behind the name of politics in particular countries, that can help a country move down, or if there's a lack of this type of activity, help a country move up the global index scale. The last couple, violent demonstrations, so pretty self-explanatory as well. A peaceful protest that devolves into rioting or a lot of physical altercations, and whether that be with other protesters, so there's pro and con protesters at a place, or there are the military or police get involved in those confrontations, and then it goes from peaceful to violent. And then lastly, this is again a completely subjective, perceptions of criminality. So if you are told or you believe a country's safe, then that is a variable factor. Well, it seems safe, so it must be safe. That to me is it's hard, because that's not something I think you can really quantify. I think that is heavily subjective. But those are all of the metrics and measures that are determined to come up with where your country sits for the Global Peace Index, as well as where you're moving to for a Global Peace Index. So I'll give you the examples. We live in the United States. Based upon a lot of this, the United States is going to be in the bottom third, and it has been in many categories here just because army, weapons, nuclear power, all those things, a crime that's committed. So it's going to end up being lower. And where we lived in Portugal, we were there for 5 years, often, because of these variables, it's going to rank higher because of the lack of certain of these things either don't exist or are very, very small within the particular country. But it is important that when you're looking at that and when you see an article that says X country is top 10 in global peace, it doesn't necessarily mean it's safe or safety. When you think of personal safety, am I going to get pickpocketed? Am I going to get assaulted? Is something bad going to happen to me? Yes, that's a piece of this index, but it's a small part of it. Much of it has to do with military and external conflict and other things out there. So just please keep that in mind as you're looking where you want to live and retire to. It's nice to know that you might be going to a country that is much safer or much have less of some of these things. But it may be worth digging into some of the details and doing a deep dive through search engines, through Facebook and Reddit groups to try to determine what's really going on in the country. Because I can speak from experience. There are people that will never set foot in the United States because they think they're going to get shot immediately after getting off the plane, which is not true. But if you read enough articles and you see enough shows, you believe that, and I understand why people would. Also, living in Portugal, often there's this veneer of nothing goes on, nothing to see here. It's super safe. There's no guns. But when you live there and you start seeing articles and you start seeing daily news where you're going, God, there's a lot of shootings that go on here for a country that doesn't. It's very limited as far as access to guns, but it's still a super safe country. It's good to know, though, that when it comes to global peace and touting itself as being, a top country, much of that has nothing to do with the personal safety, so to speak. It has a lot to do with militarization and some external factors that is involved in coming up with this scale. So it's always good to see kind of what goes in between or what goes behind the curtain of a particular scale of any sort, if it's a bad thing or a positive thing. But I just wanted to give you the information here, so as you're determining and watching this video and where you're going to move to, keep this in mind. There's a lot more behind the GPI or Global Peace Index than meets the eye. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video and enjoy your travels.